let's go check out the basement greenhouse.
Hey guys, it's Lauren here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoy yourself. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you do. And for my returning subscribers, hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for coming back. Today I want to do my greenhouse tour. Now over to my left here is my OG greenhouse, my original indoor-outdoor greenhouse. This past summer I kept this bad boy outside, so you can kind of tell it's a little hard to see through. He's been weathered and worn a little bit, but I didn't want to throw it out. He's still intact. So I brought him down to my basement and I'm propagating and growing some houseplants in here. Some of my bigger plants that I typically keep outside for the summer are in here. And then over here is a greenhouse from Mars Hydro that they were kind enough to send me to try out, along with, I believe it is their TS600 Light. I have some cool babies in here as well. My idea for these two greenhouses is to put some of the same exact plants in each of the greenhouses and kind of compare their start, middle to end journey propagating in here. I do like to propagate plants for friends. Sometimes I'll sell on Facebook Marketplace or something. And I've kind of been interested in dabbling into the splurge and purge groups. So this is a great area to propagate and get plants ready for that. That way they're not up taking space in, your home where you keep your own personal plants. You can kind of keep them separate and have a space for them to grow and thrive. But I do want to compare and see how this one will do over this one and see how the plants do in each greenhouse. Now this has always worked for me, and so far I've had this about a month and a half set up, and I'm pretty impressed with some of the things I'm seeing. That light in there is pretty bright, so you do need to be extra careful. Where in this greenhouse, I just have basic clamp lights. They're not very strong, they're not very harsh on the plants. Whereas this light is meant to grow other things than houseplants. So it is very intense and very strong. So I had to kind of MacGyver some shelving and place things very strategically so plants aren't getting burned. But you will see once I take you guys in there and show you what I have in both. Stay tuned. Here is my clear plastic grow tent. I think it's like 5.5 or 6 by 4, and the highest peak is 6 foot right here. There's a Houdini, has to join me. And I would like to get another stackable shelf so I could fit more plants in here, but one thing at a time in the future, possibly. So I do run a humidifier in here, and I only run this about 2 to 3 times a week because this does hold humidity quite well, and my basement is a cooler area, so I don't really want mold and stuff to build up, so I try not to run it that frequently. And I do have a fan back there that runs most of the time when the lights are on. I just have it turned off for noise purposes right now. Back behind here is where a lot of the doubles or propagation doubles I have going on, the ones in here and then the other ones in the Mars Hydro Grow Tent. So I'm gonna sneak past this light and try not to knock anything over, but I have some Raphidophora tetrasperma, some regular pothos, some Cebu blue. What is this? This is a Monstera deliciosa, some pearls and jade, I believe. Some more Cebu blue back there, along with some more pearls and jade. Monstera deliciosa. I believe a Syngonium holly, or it might be a white butterfly. And then some Maranta prayer plants. And you can see I do have some fungus gnats. I don't know if you saw him flying around there. In this grow tent, I do use mosquito bits, and they've been helping, but it just stays so moist, so it's kind of hard to combat it. Here is a Monstera Adansonii. Almost everything on this tray here, I have doubles of it in the Mars Hydro Grow Tent. So now I'm going to show you some of the propagations that I have potted up, and I'm going to kind of show you that process and kind of document when I did that. So I will put that footage in now.
This is my little potting setup down in my basement. I have my soil here, which I have perlite and cocoa coir that I like to add depending, add some extra depending on what I'm repotting. Today I'm going to be cutting up some of the siltepecana for propagations and then potting up some propagations and putting a few in each of my greenhouses to compare the two. All of these have been either rooting upstairs or rooting in the greenhouse. And the two that I had rooting in the greenhouse definitely put out a lot more roots compared to the ones that were just rooting upstairs in, my natural environment. And the ones that were put into the greenhouse were actually cut, they were newer cuttings and they rooted a lot more than the ones that were upstairs. So that's pretty cool to note. Let's repot these. Cuttings separated into 3 separate pieces, and I'm going to pot them up each in their own individual little pot. That way I have enough to put in each greenhouse to compare how they do. And I will just hold these in here like that and fill it in with soil. So 1 pothos is done. Here's 3 more cuttings to put in another pot. Now the roots aren't terribly long, but they're long enough to pot up if you want to. I usually wait for them to get about that much, you can't really see, that much longer, give or take. But I kind of want to put the greenhouse to the test. I did this over the summer in my regular greenhouse, but it was outside, so it was very warm and humid in there. However, I want to see how the other greenhouse will compare, because outside in those good conditions, when I potted up cuttings without any roots, they took root right away. So want to note that as well. So 3rd pothos is done.
I wanted to add that footage just so you could kind of get an idea of the day that I potted some of those up, my process behind it, and kind of when it took place and the progress we've made so far. So back here, I have some Ceropegia string of hearts propagating, doing very well. Some type of Senecio right here, a snake plant propagation, Stramanthe trio star propagating very nicely down here, and more string of hearts. If I take a step back, this is my Thematophyllum Hope. I usually keep this outside in the summer and then bring it up back in the house for the winter. But I am kind of running out of space, so I'm just trying my hand at it down here in the basement. Back here is a type of corn plant or Dracaena of some kind. This is actually a friend's. I am trying to rehab for him. He was struggling with it, and I think it was just the pot he had it in and it was not draining. So switched it to a smaller pot, and I cut off one of the stalks trying to make him another plant. See how that goes. And then here are some struggling plants. Back here, these guys are healthy. I have some Philodendron Brazil and regular green philodendron, heart-shaped philodendron, sad peace lily, and spider plant. And then a Cissus discolor that I brought in here for more humidity. And its biggest, prettiest leaf is getting these weird see-through transparent blotches. I don't know if it's blight or what, but maybe putting it in here was a bad idea. And then my lemon tree that I grew from seed last, fall, early spring. And this is what it is so far. So it's almost going to be a year of this being potted up and growing to this length. So that's pretty cool. That is it for what's in this greenhouse. And I do want to note that this is very simple. It's just simple clamp lights from Home Depot or Lowe's. There's the other one. I did have some purple lights in here, but those lights died. I need to get another light or two just to amp up the lighting in here, because this is honestly just enough to maintain it, where it's going to grow very slow, most likely, and just kind of be enough light to keep it going, so to say, at least in my opinion. So this is what I have going on in here, and this is very inexpensive. I mean, these lights are inexpensive, and this is, like I said, the basics of the basics, but it maintains itself pretty well. And this here is the Mars Hydro Grow Tent with the TS600 Light. Now, this was quite easy to put together. It took my fiance and I maybe 20 minutes to get the tent put together, and then an extra 10-15 minutes to get the light set up inside and get everything like assembled for the most part. So the process was pretty smooth.
You got this, babe? We're working with a small space. Cheers to teamwork.
Pretty sweet.
Thanks for your help. All right, now I'm gonna have to move one of these shelves in there because it's not the biggest tent. So, find something that fits. Like that. What do you think? Yeah.
Inside, it gets pretty warm. So here is the TS600 Light. It is strong. It is warm. I put a lot of succulents up here, and something awesome to report is look what popped up. Here, let me pull this out. This is one of my snake plant propagations, and since being in here for a month and a half now, it has pushed this out. And I do have some older footage of maybe progress from like 2 weeks after putting everything in here, which I will show you guys here in a little bit. But that's pretty fast progress for Sansevierias. And I also put some cuttings in water, which have been in here about a month and a half, give or take. And look at those roots. So that in itself is very impressive. And here are some more Sansevieria roots. How cool is that? So put those back. The Senecio in here compared to the one in the other tent, this one's doing much better. It's very close to this bright light. So yeah, it gets good light on each sides because of, you know, this like aluminum siding, which definitely keeps in the heat, which is cool. My variegated Hoya carnosa compacta really likes it up close to the light, and I'm waiting to see if any of these other snake plants push out some little pups. The snake plant and the other tent is doing fine, just waiting to see some progress. There's some other succulent cuttings. Down here I have another Cebu Blue, everything that you've seen in the previous tent. Some Ansoni, and some other fun things. Here's another monstera, and then all the way in the back is some pink princess propagations. They are just rooting in some sphagnum, and there's a monstera node. You can see it's pushing out a new leaf, one of those cuttings right there. And some of my older footage, you do not see that new leaf coming in. So that's really exciting. My Syngonium chiapense has since put out this leaf and is putting out another leaf. So that's great. Some Siltibacana propagating back there and some Micans. This Stromanthe Trio Star is definitely looking extra special. It's looking pretty good. Compared to the other one, I would say this one is growing faster. It has put out more growth since compared to the other plant. One thing I do want to note though is that this light is very, very bright. So you will see some of the leaves are kind of chlorotic. Here is a Scindapsus and it's very chlorotic, so I kind of had to move it back and tuck it back. Down here is a Monstera Peru, and as much as I really like this chlorotic look, it is not good for the plant. So I might need to take that out of there. Back there I got some Retusa and some Dieffenbachia, Pedatum, just regular pothos. This thing is killing it in this grow tent. Look at that. I should probably just cut that off and put it right in soil. But that's looking really good. And another thing, this roots, if you put plants in here and just water, they grow roots like crazy. When I first put this grow tent in, I put a bunch of Monstera Adansonii cuttings in some water, and those are the ones potted up right there. So in about a month and a half, it grew pretty substantial roots to pot up. Here are some prop boxes with Micans and string of hearts in them, and then some other ones that are potted up. And compared to the one in the other grow tent, I actually prefer the other grow tent for string of hearts. I feel like it's a slower approach to growing them, but these are very sun stressed, which it might be your thing. I actually enjoy the color, but I prefer them when they're not sun stressed. They're growing fine though. Just looking a little purpley. And then over here I have some more cuttings propagating, and my Brandy doing her thing. I will give you guys some more updates in the future, but I can definitely say, like, these succulents definitely love this light and do a whole heck of a lot better in here than they do versus this grow tent. But other plants that are more light sensitive, like pothos, even like the Monstera Peru, things like that, will do better in here to some aspect because it is very, very bright in here. And this light is not one of their dimmable lights. I believe they do sell lights that come with that feature. This one, however, does not. So I could always change the lighting in here if this light had that feature, but it still works pretty well. This Hoya and these succulents seem to love it. These tropicals seem to love it too because it gets warm in here. I'm glad I have this tray to kind of block it, but the ones that sit closer to the edge do kind of bleach out a little bit. So keep that in mind. I should move that one back further or just move it out completely. It does kind of look pretty, that color though. Thank you guys all for watching. This concludes my greenhouse tour. I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you have any questions or you have any tips, especially tips on how to amp up this bad boy, please leave those in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.